Smash that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and like the video.
Because I haven't done any other show.
This is a FarmBoy's podcast with your favorite, my favorite, funniest comedian on the planet, Tyler Fischer. Tyler, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, actor, comedian, content creator now. That this is how it has to happen. So, yeah, Hollywood actor turned full-time comedian and video maker.
What year did you start? What year did you become, I guess you could say a professional getting paid comedian?
Yeah, well, when you're just starting out and someone throws you $20 or $100, it feels like a full-time job. So, I did that for probably 10 years.
Okay.
And then you'd get a random gig that paid a little bit more, and then you think you've made it, and then you can't pay the rent. So I'd say probably over the last like 6, 7 years, I've been doing it pretty full time.
Okay. All right. So diving right in here, society seems to have lost its sense of humor, or maybe comedy's too offensive for most. What do you think about that? Do you think whoever's in power politically determines what comedy is, or what do you think this trend is of people getting so offended is about?
I honestly a little offended by the question. I'm going to pass on it. We gave you a list of things. Actually said no questions at all, which you've clearly already broken the rule. That is what it's like having a conversation with one of the people you're describing. But it's not as many people as you think. It's a smaller group, but when their life goal is to censor, they're loud and annoying. If you don't have a purpose, you're grinding, doing your podcast, you have things you want to do, and so it's a smaller group than you think, and then it kind of spreads. I'll do the Jordan Peterson thing. It sort of spreads out, and it grows, and then it's people who are self-censoring as to not upset the landmine next to them. It might be their wife or husband or friend or coworker. So I think it's just kind of spread, like look how fast COVID spread. Within 2 weeks, people were following all these rules from, the first pandemic in 19 whatever. And so I think that's happening with comedy. So if you take a step back and you go, all right, it's not really as bad as it looks.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get through the first stages of a lot of hate and anger. But once you break through it, I don't really care I don't care how many people are at my show. As long as there's a handful of people, it doesn't matter to me. So I only need like 10, 20 people to know if a joke worked.
Okay. So
That's how I see it. Yeah.
yeah, you seem to lean a little bit more conservative. Would you say that's accurate?
Well, again, you got to take a step back and look at
Sure.
how quickly things have shifted. So,
Right.
I never had any political affiliation. I just was kind of raised, quote unquote, Democrat. So that
Okay.
was lingering in the back. But then
Mm-hmm.
not getting the COVID shot, you start getting labeled, and then telling a joke that was fine last year and wasn't this year. They keep piling you in the right wing sort of box. But for artists, I don't think it's a great idea to even put yourself in a political box, because it's going to limit the scope of your stuff. Obviously, I've broken that rule because
Yeah.
it's just we're in a very unique time.
But that's what's great about your comedy is you make fun of everybody.
Yeah, I do. Again, so it seems like I'd say more so the political left are people who are more rabid with that. You make fun of them, they get mad. You make fun of the other side, they love it. But I've found more so if I have a crowd of people, all right, this is probably mostly conservatives. I make fun of the left, they laugh, and then I make fun of us and Trump and everybody, and they laugh as well. So that's just the way it is, and so be it. If those are going to be the more fun crowds, I don't, I've just kind of surrendered to sometimes. Sometimes my shows look like a Trump rally with the hat. I don't care, it's like,
Yeah.
if you don't think it's funny, don't laugh, and that's it. So that's kind of how it works. If I feel like the crowd's more right leaning, if the joke's not funny, it's silence and it's painful, and I'm sitting up there with my in my hand. But if it's more of a left leaning crowd and I do
Yeah.
something they don't like, they scream. I've had people run on stage. I've had people, storm out screaming and give me the finger. So, that's just how it is.
Right. To me, it's like that famous quote by Michael Jordan when he said, "Well, Republicans buy shoes too." Yeah. So, have you ever hit a topic that you've considered like, "Hey, this is totally off limits to me"? Like, I'm not going to talk about this. It may be funny and comedy, but it's just not me.
Not really, like even I don't know a whole lot about what's going on in the Middle East, I don't, or is it even the Middle East? Israel-Palestine stuff. Everyone
Hmm.
has very firm beliefs and opinions on it. I just don't know the history of all of it. So I can make my assumptions on it. But I can still make a joke around the topic, if I think it's funny. But no, again, I've told some really disturbing, dark jokes and crowds might feel a little more reserved or religious, and those end up being the ones that kill the most. I did a show at a library once, and
Wow.
the first comic got up and just really went for it, and I thought, wait, this makes sense. Librarians are quiet and repressed. They're the ones that needed to really hear this crazy shit. And it ended up being the dirtiest, darkest show I've ever seen
Wow.
in a library. So,
Can you give us any type of a joke that you think would kind of portray what that vibe was, being dark?
trying to think. I mean, one of my favorite jokes, which is based on the truth, was that my priest, when I was 8, himself, and so that's as dark as it gets.
That's
And
pretty dark. That's
he did it. He did it at the altar in the church, not when anybody was there, because that would have been. I always say if it happened during church, I'd be way funnier because that trauma would have been really. But you're 8.
it writes itself.
I know, right? Someone I tell on stage is like, it's been haunting me for 30 years, and I'm like, holy crap, were my job's that bad? And
I think
it's
you told that
never
in
not
Salt Lake City.
it's
I'm pretty
never
sure you
not
told
done
that.
well,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
because not to I don't like to dig too much into the truth of the joke or where it comes from, but the guy took his that could have been one of the reasons. Like he could have been involved in something like that. If you take a look at the statistics, and I'm not saying all priests are doing that, but people laugh and then they start to get mad, but then they realize like, wait, this could be a true story. So it's fun to watch the crowd kind of go through this range of emotion on a joke like that.
That's gotta fuel you when you watch. I mean, the at your comedy show, I'll be the first. My wife and I went Salt Lake City, Wise Guys, and man, that was just awesome. And you could tell the emotions ranged everywhere because yeah, your jokes are very thoughtful, and it's all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. And you I mean, during your joke telling, you even say that like, oh, that offends you or whatever. But then
Yeah.
people laugh because I mean, it's like you vibe off that, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And if they don't laugh and they're mad, you might be able to double down on it in some way, So the mistakes lead to the real good stuff. And then, or you might just know, okay, I got to take it in a different direction because the crowd's mad and I'm here to make them happy. So it's kind of, it's like you're orchestrating the emotions of the crowd and yourself. And I try not to ever get mad at the crowd if they don't like something, So you throw out like 90% of what you write.
Okay, wow.
And
So
10% stays. Yeah.
your social media, you keep up to date with kind of everything that's hot in the world today, like Sydney Sweeney, Stephen Colbert. What is your take on the state of the country right now? I mean, we've got AI that just came out, and AI is going to supposedly take over the world. And funny enough, that seems like it's a good possibility. And then Sydney Sweeney and being called Nazi and all this stuff, and what's your take on everything that's going on?
Well, it's kind of like a hamster wheel now, where if one or two people call her a Nazi and they have a decent following on a podcast, or they don't, or if it's just a random stranger shouting, that can be used to launch this whole, oh my God, everyone's calling her a Nazi. And then the media is dying, the big legacy media, so they'll latch onto that too and use that as evidence. Person on internet. So as a comedian, that's good because I can hop on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
But as a normal, non-entertainer who actually gets pissed at this stuff and angry, that's not healthy. But I think it's up to everybody to decide sort of how important they want to portray all of these different things. And if they
Sure.
will, at the end of the day, you don't have to go online, you don't have to engage. And so if it's hurting you, that's on you a little bit. But it's complicated. But
Sure.
for
Yeah.
me, again, it's like, okay, like I just posted something from the did you see that blonde woman who's yelling about the Cracker Barrel, how like all if you voted for Trump, you should be banned from Mexican restaurants and Chinese restaurants, and you should only be allowed to eat at Cracker Barrel. And she is livid.
Is that on your Instagram?
I just posted it. Yeah, but
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
going crazy. And, again, it's now this woman's going to get more attention and more
Yeah.
followers, more money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But she's got a really big podcast. And you can see how some women, I'd say more on the feminist side, would latch onto someone like this. She's just seething angry. So I just did a little reaction to the video.
I like the clown make. If anybody has not seen your social media, first and foremost, go to Instagram. Just look them up everywhere. We'll have the links in the description. But Ty the Fish, your Instagram is just awesome. My wife and I follow it, probably more than we should be on there. But going back to Stephen Colbert, is that something you'd want to do? Is host a late night show, or do you think it's dying? It's becoming irrelevant.
I think if he didn't go so one-sided, who's to say? That could have been, I used to watch it when I was so excited when the show started because I watched The Daily Show. I grew up, I would go to the studio audience. Jon Stewart is incredibly talented, and I think they made a big mistake hiring Trevor Noah after him because he just didn't have the same skills. So that's when I stopped watching it. And if he stayed more, Johnny Carson did that wonderfully. You didn't know what his personal thoughts were. So as a late night host, I think that's probably a better idea. Even like Gutfeld, which is a show I used to be on, it sometimes I'd be sitting there like, okay, they're kind of doing the same thing. It is a little too one-sided, which is fine. It's like people really needed it, and I needed it too. But there's probably some sweet spot that somebody could hit.
I think I think it'd be phenomenal with your impressions and everything. I think it'd be a fun show. Would you do that?
I would consider it. I think I
Yeah.
would more like to transition into making movies,
Oh,
and
okay.
trying to bring good comedy films back. It's just a matter of can I sit down and focus and write a script. But it's one of those things I know I have to do it. So I'm sure something will align and I could, portray somebody, like Woody Allen. I love his movies. Yeah, I'd love to play him and do the story of his life, or a musician or something like that, because we don't really see those films anymore.
Right. So you're not just talking about, going on there and being comedy, but you're talking about, hey, I want to portray these people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
just saw a Billy Joel documentary, and I thought, that would be fun to play him, or to play George Carlin, or Jim Carrey or
Oh,
somebody. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, we have AI now that can apparently write scripts and do anything and everything. But
Oh,
what do you
crap.
think?
That's right. Yeah, well, that is a concern because I guess they could just have AI Jim Carrey, but
Well, no, I'm just saying write the script, not be you. You can be the lead,
sure,
right?
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think AI will have any kind of impact on comedy? Do you think
Oh yeah,
comedians use?
I just
Yep.
completely surrendered to it. A friend of mine does AI, so we just started a page. It's linked on my Instagram. It's called Silent Thunder Pulse, which is just, I think we had AI make the name. It's a temporary name, but we just started, and I'm trying to find our page here.
Sure.
We've well surpassed 1 million views, like pretty quick.
I will put it up on here. Silent
Yeah.
Thunder Pulse.
Yep. So, I mean,
Okay.
the last video we did hit almost 700,000 views, and I'm sure you've seen all those green objects being thrown on the WNBA court. And
I
so,
saw your video on Instagram with somebody getting hit in the face with one. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So you
So,
use your AI to make that?
that's all AI. Yeah. None of that's real. So we did this is the Zoran Mondani, and this is all AI here, like, and so
You
you
can't even
can't
tell
beat
what's
'em.
real anymore.
Yeah, yeah. If you can't beat them, join them. So we're right now creating a larger video of the WNBA in a year from now, where the entire sport now is based on sex toys being thrown on the court, and they've just surrendered to it. So we're having a blast.
Oh gosh, that's funny. So kind of want to pivot here a little bit, get to a little bit into your personal life, not too much into it, but your fans know and love your dog. Like your dog is like your companion, your
Yeah.
partner. But are you ever looking to settle down and potentially get married, or is that something you're not worried about?
Well, the dog doesn't really understand marriage, so we're probably not heading in that direction. He also doesn't know we're about to go be in a commercial. My friend owns a pet supply company, and
Oh, cool.
but he's laying right there. He has no idea we're about to go. He's not that, but yeah, I would be interested in it.
Yeah.
But it's got to be right. My life's pretty crazy and busy, and so my litmus test is there more stress or less stress added to my life? And maybe that's naive to think
Well, that's
the
fair.
latter will happen. But the modern gal has been trained to not want or need a man. I'm sure there's exceptions out there, but that's been my experience. And so it doesn't really leave a whole lot for, your masculinity to come out when they're like, I don't need you, I don't need your money, except when we go out to dinner and bills are paid and everything. So it's just kind of a crappy deal right now. And hopefully they'll snap out of it before I'm 70.
Being from Idaho and now living in Salt Lake, you come to one of these two states, I think you'll find that that old traditional thought of not all the women, obviously, not everybody, but there's still quite a few good ones out in the Idaho and Utah
Yeah,
area for sure.
I had a few dates out there in Utah actually, and
Oh
and
yeah,
they were halfway there.
okay,
But they're still battling with being indoctrinated,
sure,
So it's
yeah.
we're trying.
So it seems like comedians, for the most part, all get along. Looking at your social media, you've got other comedians like Joe Rogan, Tony Hinchcliffe. I mean, a whole bag that follow you. Do do you hang out with Who do you hang out with? Like I see, Rogan on his podcast. He's got all his buddies on there. Obviously, you've been on a show. Do you have a group that you hang out with, or one or two?
Not comedians, no. I
Mm.
actually just, no offense to them, I just prefer people in different fields because then it's more of an interesting, well-rounded conversation. Friends who are psychologists, musicians, actors, and then it's hard to really get past. There's going to be an underlying competition. I
Oh.
hope to say I don't have it. I'm sure it's still there a little bit, but it's difficult, if you're in a field and then some people are rising and falling, and I find it better for my life to have, non-comedian friends, and then also you're the funny one in the group.
Right, right. I'd assume in every group that you're that guy, definitely. How often do you do your impressions, or how often do your friends, the ones you're closest to, say, "Hey, you know what? Do Trump for me." What?
Oh, they don't really ask anymore, but
No?
no, I'll break it out. It's got to be on my terms. I was on a date with someone recently, and she kept asking me to do impressions. I said, no, I'm just gonna. It's gonna come out when it comes out, and I'll wait till the right time to strike when they least expect it.
Sure. So I personally think, and my wife agrees, obviously, but I think you do the best Trump. I mean, Shane Gillis, I like his too, but and a lot of other people's, Matt Friend, but I'm gonna say you're the top Trump guy. That's a
Well,
good one.
they've got the weight, they've got Shane's got the fatness, right? But he's got the fat, thick neck, right? But I have to do other things. I have to come up with other things, fun things to make it work. We're making it work.
That's yeah. See, there's not anybody even close. Ah, thank you for
It's
doing
like
that. You just made the entire podcast by doing that. I was like, is there any way to even ask him? Nah, he's just gonna do it at some point. So
Well,
I
the
mean,
views are going up. We could see the numbers going up. We could see them. They said, sure, the numbers are really going up. It's billions, right? Billions.
I like subtle, kind of more quiet Trump. And
yeah,
I don't see too many other people doing
no,
that, but to me, that's my favorite part of him when he
Well,
just
he talks like that more than anything else. The way that you're doing it, and
always
that's why I
very
think you're so
quiet.
accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always he's always so polite to the media. Oh, questions. Yeah, please, please. And then he tears them apart, obviously, but it's always so polite at the beginning and it's quiet.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've watched a lot of old interviews of Trump. I think you can gain a lot of insight on him from he's been on every show since probably the 80s.
Yeah,
Oprah, Rosie O'Donnell, and he's always very just quiet and subdued and talks about how getting married is the best way to go. And there's a real authenticity to those older interviews. He still has it, but I don't know. I had a different view of him when I went back and watched and so realized he kind of had the same views for 50 years or whatever. He's had the same policy ideas and almost like an OCD level of interest in politics, like a obsession with it that someone like Kamala Harris doesn't have. She just doesn't have the wealth of knowledge. So obviously he's not perfect, but I've never seen anybody else that obsessed with policy and understanding of foreign policy and economics and stuff. So yeah, I want to make money. So now as I'm getting older, I'm like, yeah, I want somebody like that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just decided I'm gonna trust him. I'm gonna fully trust whatever the hell he's doing because I can barely keep my kitchen clean.
Sure. So that leads a question, making money. So if you couldn't do comedy, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
Oh my gosh. Probably begging for change on the street.
Doing impressions, begging for change?
Maybe something in the architecture world, it's probably similar to building a joke. You're just kind of designing it, building it, shifting it. So I really do love architecture design. Maybe go into that at some point. All on the side.
Sure.
But
So I want to be. You gave me 30 minutes. I appreciate that.
yeah.
Just one last question here. Do you have any projects or anything that you're working on coming up besides a tour that you want to announce on here or tell people to check out?
The tour's the biggest,
Okay.
that's my driving force right now. So up next is I'll be in Tulsa on this upcoming Friday, then Oklahoma City, then Sacramento, and then Vancouver, and then I think every weekend through the end of January. But that might just continue on. So yeah, if check out my website, tylerfischer.com. I've got a mailing list there, so we'll let you know when we're in your city. And it's a lot of fun. The crowds are awesome and open-minded, and it's just me. I do a solo show of 80, 90 minutes. And yeah, if you want to get out, take the gal out or whoever you're with, or come alone, take your dog.
Well, I will attest, funniest comedy show I've ever been to. So thank you. We'll put the links to your website, the No Fly List tour with Tyler Fischer. Don't forget to put the SCHER in there.